Alright, welcome back to ranking all the subclasses according to how well they perform the 7 roles of the party. This is our Cleric video. Clerics, as you may have noticed, have an awful lot of subclasses. So, we're going to have to go a little bit faster this time around. If you want a more in-depth analysis, have it answer questions in the comments. Alright, raise your glasses and let's talk about the Arcana Cleric. So this cleric has a double dose of wizard flavor. You worship gods of Arcana, which are, kind of the magical entities of the world. You're going to get some wizard spells on your spell list, and the cleric has domain spells that are often from the wizard spell list as well. These include a lot of great detection spells, like Detect Magic and Arcane Eye, which I love, and those are good for investigation. I think just off the bat there, this really does steer you towards a slightly more investigation role. Your Channel Divinity is an abjuration that works on many more types of beings, which is just helpful utility. I've never had to dual fist in videos before. Like, the microphone and the beer, it's kind of complicated. And I know a lot of you are saying, like, why don't you just set the microphone on the desk, like, right in front of you? But, like, there is no desk right in front of me. Like, it just goes, there's just nothing there. So, and you're like, where's the camera? And there's not a camera. You're here with me. We're in this together. Your 6th level feature gives you the ability to break a spell on an ally, which is actually quite good support and fills an unusual support niche. Similar to the bard's like counter charm, or obviously using the spell to dispel magic. But this is kind of built into using other support spells on your allies. I really like this feature, and I think it gives a really good boost to the support for this class. The bane of my existence, as you'll see in this video, is potent spellcasting and potent cantrip. All these cleric classes have these abilities that are aimed at like support and investigation and damage dealing, and then they give you these like terrible options for dealing additional damage. But yeah, you can add your wisdom modifier to damage you deal with a cleric cantrip, so there's that. The 17th level feature is really, really lackluster. You just get to add more spells from the wizard spell list to your list. As a subclass capstone, that's terrible, but since most people will never get to 17th level, we can safely ignore it. Alright, the Death Domain Cleric. Love this one. So we get proficiency with martial weapons, which is a little strange, but, sure, you could be a martial cleric. You could do that. Hopefully you grab a big old Reaper Scythe or something like that. And then you do get the Reaper ability. This allows you to split your necromancy cantrips in 2 if it would only target one creature. Using this with something like Toll the Dead, which is already quite a potent necromancy damage cantrip, is a very, very powerful ability for this character, and makes that martial weapons thing really confusing, because why would you do that when you could cast this cantrip? Why are both of these on the same level, on the same character? I digress. The Channel Divinity here is just a big old wallop of necrotic damage, equal to 5 plus twice your cleric level. So when you get it, that's 9 necrotic damage. At 2nd level, that's good. And then it scales pretty nicely, I think. If you think about like a 10th level cleric dealing 25 necrotic damage, that seems about right for a nice little damage hit. It's more than you would ordinarily do with most spells, or certainly your like Reaper cantrip. It's probably going to do more damage than that. Is it worth a Channel Divinity? Hard to say. Inescapable Destruction is the 6th level feature, which is going to let you ignore resistance to necrotic damage. This makes you much more effective at continuing to deal damage to different enemy types. No surprises here, the Divine Strikes are going to add a d8 of necrotic damage onto your melee attacks. So I guess that's why we got our weapon proficiency. This is how subclasses get worse, right? Generally, like some things they can just be weak, like we talked about some of the barbarian subclasses were genuinely just not very strong. But I think the one that really sneaks up on them is when they try and split and go in a lot of different directions. And so no one role in the party is actually bolstered enough to get an up ranking. And I think that's what we're seeing here with this kind of like, you want to be a damage dealer, but it's trying to go too many directions with that damage dealing. You've got your cantrips, you've got your Channel Divinity and your spells, and then your melee weapons, and it's like you gotta, each one is getting a little better, but that means your overall damage output is only a little better. Finally, Improved Reaper. 17th level is going to allow your necrotic spells to split, just like your Reaper allowed your cantrips to split, which is actually really, really cool, and I think it would be awesome for something like Blight, but 17th level is very, very high up for this to be happening. The Forge Domain Cleric is a very, very cool subclass. Firstly, you're going to get proficiency with heavy armor and smith's tools, so immediately our frontline ability is going to bump up to a B tier. We're also going to get Blessing of the Forge, which allows us to cast a blessing on either a piece of armor or a weapon. If you do it on the weapon, it becomes a +1 weapon. Right at level 1, that's amazing. And then if you cast it on armor, it becomes +1 armor, which is, if you're going to be a frontliner, really, really good to have. For damage, we're getting spells on our domain list, including Searing Smite, Heat Metal, Elemental Weapon, Wall of Fire, and amazingly Animate Objects at 9th level, which is really, really strong. We do have a couple of protective spells in there, like Protection from Energy, and then, obviously Wall of Fire can act as a protective spell if you need it to, and some decent utility in Creation, Fabricate, that sort of thing. Our Channel Divinity is a solid utility feature, which allows us to shape metal into an object, essentially like you are forging something, but just with your magic. I really, really love these features. I have a soft spot for it when you can kind of like create whatever you want to out of the raw materials. I think this gives players a lot of solid options to solve problems or to help people. So I have a soft spot for this and would like to give that some points for utility. Soul of the Forge is going to give us resistance to fire damage, which does come up quite a bit. And then while wearing heavy armor, we get a +1 bonus to AC, which is great. Numerically, we love stacking that. With our heavy armor, and if we were to cast that blessing on it, we now have something like a 20 AC and resistance to fire damage? Heck yeah! So this, I think, is actually an A tier frontliner if you lean into that. Of course, we got our Divine Strikes, which is going to add fire damage to our hits. What are you going to do? I do think that if you were dealing damage, you would really want to be dealing damage with one of your concentration spells, so maybe having these weapon attacks isn't so bad of a thing. 17th level, if we can imagine getting there, you get immunity to fire damage, and you have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing while in heavy armor, which is, of course, an incredible feature, but at 17th level. I don't think this class can pass into the S tier for a frontliner. It's just not possible without any way to force enemies to attack you or like compel them to do so. But the survivability here and the promise of being able to pump up your AC and be a really heavy hitter while also taking heavy hits is pretty cool. Grave Domain Cleric. So Grave Domain, you're going to get some domain spells that include things like Bane, Brave Enfeeblement, Revivify, Blight, which I love, Death Ward, and then Raise Dead at 9th level. This is a pretty good spell list. I think, generally speaking, you can see this balance between like worsening foes and supporting allies. It's got this really good mix of utility and support that are built into the class. It has one of my favorite support features, which is Circle of Mortality. Essentially, when a character has 0 hit points, instead of rolling to heal them, you just use the max number. As those of you who have been steeped in the D&D community might know, the best praxis while healing teammates or being that healer role is to wait until they hit 0 hit points. And the reason is because healing spells do very little, and enemies can damage by quite a lot. So if your ally is at 5 health and you heal them for 7, and then they take 15 points of damage, that healing spell was completely wasted, right? Because there's no negative, so you can't go below 0. So if they'd taken that 15 damage at 5 or taken that 15 damage at 12, doesn't matter, it's all the same. So you've wasted your spell slot. But if you wait and then you heal them while they're at 0, the difference between being unconscious and being conscious now is enormous. I mean, they get their action, they get to be like doing things in combat. It's such a big benefit. So healers who are good at their job are always healing targets at 0 hit points. And this feature playing directly into that is just like, it yanks you in the direction of best play, which I absolutely love. I think it's a great class for like someone who is starting out in the supporting role to kind of like learn how this works. And the idea that maybe that extra bonus to your healing is enough that your ally can survive 2 hits instead of 1, or like maybe survive an extra round because instead of rolling you got that maximum number, is really, really exciting. So I think this is immediately like boom, A tier support just from the level 1 features. You're also going to get Eyes of the Grave, which is mostly a Riven feature around sensing undead. This class, despite being a grave domain, hates undead. Our Channel Divinity Path to the Grave is so cool. We are going to give an enemy vulnerability to the next damage that it takes, which will of course double that damage. It's tempting to use this with our own abilities, find some way to like metamagic adapt a spell with our bonus action, but the truth is the potential for this to just be an amazing support feature that you use in conjunction with your paladin or some other class that has a heavy hitting spell is going to create some amazing moments at the table and really help your party do better at what they're already doing. So really solidifying our A tier status as a support character and bumping up towards the top of that tier. Our 6th level feature is going to allow us to nullify critical hits. Very helpful, reducing the damage taken by our allies. In and of itself, it's probably not going to, over the long run average of the game, reduce that much damage. But hey, when you know that there is that bad guy who's wielding that huge D12 Great Axe and is going to add that extra D12 damage, being able to spare your ally 7 damage is nothing to sneeze at. Potent spellcasting. And then Keeper of Souls is our 17th level feature. It's a little complicated, but basically we can grab a soul from a dying enemy and regain hit points equal to that enemy's number of hit die. So the bigger the bad that died, the more hit points are regained. The cool part about this ability is it doesn't cost a reaction. You just need to not be incapacitated to use it. I know it's at 17th level, but combined with all this other stuff we've been seeing, I think this is one of the best healer classes in the game. I think it's probably better than the Life Cleric in terms of support for your party, just because it covers so many additional bases. Our Knowledge Domain Cleric is custom built to fit the Investigator role. This is a cleric that is focused on skills and focused on detection and information. So your domain spells are going to include things like Identify, Augury, Speak with Dead, Arcane Eye, Legend Lore, and Scrying, which are all amazing Investigator spells. Our Blessings of Knowledge at 1st level is going to give us additional proficiency in 2 skills, and our proficiency bonus is doubled, which is just expertise. I don't know why they phrase it differently. For any check you make that uses those skills. So it's 2 counts of expertise. Immediately an amazing addition to the class. You guys know how much I favored the Bard for that expertise. The ability to choose your role and then really excel at it is so exciting here. I'm tempted to just immediately bump this up to an A tier Investigator. As you'll see, it'll earn that title by the end of this video. Our Channel Divinity is going to allow us to access a skill or a tool proficiency that we don't already have, which is a nifty way of being versatile and adapting to the party or the situation that you're in. While I do think this has broad applications, I'm going to chalk these points over to the utility category, just because it's that focus on flexibility that we enjoy here. This 6th level feature is so interesting. It's this combination Detect Thoughts and Suggestion. It's a Channel Divinity, right? So it's not expending our spell slots, and we get to use it like Detect Thoughts. So if they fail the saving throw, we get their surface level thoughts, and kind of get other things relating to their emotional state or things they're hiding. But we can also use the suggestion spell while it's affected by our Detect Thoughts on each turn without expending a spell slot. And the target automatically fails its saving throw against that suggestion spell. So this is some really potent mind control here at 6th level, on par with some higher level spells. The only thing we have to keep in mind here is that it is competing for that Channel Divinity with our other proficiency gaining Channel Divinity. I think this is going to bump us up into the A tier, now combining that with those other utility bonuses from previous skills. But keep in mind as well that just the Detect Thoughts effect, ignoring the suggestions, which are amazing, just the ability to detect thoughts in addition to these other skill sets are going to help you to investigate without needing that social element to it, right? We can now figure out what someone knows without needing to throw the negotiator into the mix, which is really, really helpful for uncovering that like last area where information can be hidden. So I'm going to say we're definitely an A tier investigator here. Visions of the Past is such an amazing feature that even though it's at 7th level, I'm going to give it major props. We can use it one of two ways. We can hold an object and see things like from visions of the object's previous owner, things that the object has seen, retroactively treating it like a spy or a second pair of eyes through the past. We're also going to get area reading, which allows us to see how a place was in the past as well. This is the definition of what an investigator wants to be, and has so many creative applications that I just have to bump this into an S tier for investigation. I absolutely love the knowledge domain cleric for that role. Alright, here we are at the life domain cleric, probably one of the more famous cleric subclasses. Not just because it's in the player's handbook. And why does it have that reputation? Well, in addition to its domain spells, which include Cure Wounds, Lesser Restoration, Revivify, Beacon of Hope, which also helps with healing, Death Ward, Mass Cure Wounds, it also has this Disciple of Life feature right at first level. Disciple of Life is going to add a static amount onto your healing spells. It's going to add 2 plus the spell's level to however many hit points you restore. So if you're throwing out that Cure Wounds, then it is a first level spell. It's going to add 3 more healing onto what it was doing already, which was a d8 plus your wisdom. So probably, on average, usually this will be doubling your wisdom modifier. Like, it's equivalent to doubling your wisdom modifier in terms of healing. And of course, because that Cure Wounds is a d8 with an average of 4, adding 3 more is pretty significant. It's a high percentage increase. As you move up, obviously, and get higher level spell slots, you cast it with higher level spells. You're talking about doing 5 extra health on a 3rd level spell. It's kind of not too great. So it doesn't scale super, super well. And again, it is relative to a player's health pool, right? If you imagine that like this person has 50 hit points, right? Healing 3 more on top of what you were already healing is going to feel pretty trivial. The kind of caveat here is that Disciple of Life was very good for large-scale healing effects. So take Mass Cure Wounds, which is going to affect a bunch of different players. Adding that 7 additional healing to all those different people adds up to a pretty significant addition of health points. So this is the one that tends to be used for volume healing. We are also going to get proficiency with Heavy Armor, which boosts our survivability and our frontline capability a little bit. The Channel Divinity is going to play into that volume healing archetype. So as an action, you're going to present your holy symbol and heal someone a number of hit points equal to 5 times your cleric level. So here at level 2, that's 10, but as you go up, you can imagine like a 10th level cleric is healing someone for 50 hit points. You're dividing that hit points amongst the creatures within 30 feet of you, so you can kind of decide on the allocation of that, and it's this nice real numbers game of healing and boosting up your allies. However, this feature cannot restore a creature to more than half hit points, right? So this is what you want to do when everyone is really low. You want to bring the power with a lot of healing to kind of bring everyone back up to half. The 6th level Blessed Healer is going to give you a boost of health when you heal someone else. So it says when you cast a spell slot of 1st level higher that restores hit points to a creature other than you, you regain hit points equal to 2 plus the spell's level. So this is the same Disciple of Life bonus, but to you. So this is kind of a fun way of being like a frontliner who is also healing. And that's, I think, where you want to straddle that line here with the heavy armor and with the self-healing, putting out high numbers of hit points to boast your party. Then at 8th level, of course, it's got Divine Strikes, which has nothing to do with anything we've been talking about. And then our big, super 17th level feature, Supreme Healing. When you would normally roll 1 or more dice to restore hit points to the spell, use the highest number possible on the die. Just period for everything. So that's actually really, really good, and I don't have any qualms about giving this an A tier in terms of support. The Light Cleric is a fun little hybrid subclass. For our domain spells, it's going to highlight that hybrid status here, adding some damage spells. So we're going to start with like Burning Hands, Flaming Spear, Scorching Ray, Fireball, Wall of Fire, Flame Strike, which is a lot of damage, a lot of fire damage on the spell list, and then pairs that with some various utility and support spells. So you can see here Fairy Fire, Daylight, the scrying as well at a higher level. You get the light cantrip, which is mostly a ribbon feature, and then Warding Flare allows you to use a reaction to impose disadvantage on an attack roll against you. Attacker that can't be blinded is immune to this. So basically helps with your survivability a little bit. Our Channel Divinity, Radiance of the Dawn, is going to create this magical sunlight within 30 feet of you. Each hostile creature must make a Constitution saving throw, not a great saving throw to target, taking 2d10 plus your Cleric level of radiant damage, which is really good. And it's also going to banish darkness within that area. This is nifty. It's well known that darkness is not normal darkness, so dark vision doesn't operate in it, so it's kind of hard to deal with an enemy that is doing a lot of darkness spells and with your allies don't have Dispel Magic. Here at 2nd level, you're going to be able to Radiance of the Dawn and blast all those enemies who are hiding in the darkness, and that's kind of cool. I'm going to consider this actually utility rather than damage. You are going to be getting access to lots of fire damaging spells, so this isn't necessarily going to do anything in terms of your damage numbers, but it does give you the ability to handle certain problems, namely darkness. At 6th level, Improved Flare is going to extend the radius of our protection. We can now use a reaction to interpose ourselves in an attack anywhere within 30 feet of us. This is a fun little support feature. If this had been a frontline build, I would call it a frontline feature, but since it's not, I have to just say here that it's decent support, right? Of course, at 8th level, we're getting Potent Spellcasting, increasing our damage a little bit. At 17th level, Corona of Light is a very potent feature. It's going to basically give us this aura that is bright and blinding, 60-foot radius of bright light and 30 feet of dim light beyond that. Enemies in the bright light, so it's in the 60 feet, have disadvantage on saving throws against spells that deal fire or radiant damage. And this can apply, obviously, to your own spells, but also to all allies, which is really, really, really cool. Significant uptick in your own damage as they're failing the saving throws more often, and if you have a party that's synergizing with you on this, can be a significant uptick in the damage of the entire party, giving you much more support potential, which I really, really love. It comes on quite late, but I think it's safe to say that this is an A-tier damage-dealing Cleric class. I don't know that it really does anything particularly interesting in terms of frontlining or support, though. If you've taken Wisdom as your primary ability score and have somehow accidentally chosen Cleric instead of Druid but wish you could have all that Druidy goodness, the Nature domain is available. You're going to get spells from the Druid spell list primarily, so things like Animal Friendship, Spike Growth, Plant Growth, all those good things. Acolyte of Nature is going to give you additional skills proficiencies in things like Animal Handling, Nature, or Survival. And then you're going to get your proficiency with Heavy Armor, so that helps your frontline status a little bit. Our Channel Divinity is going to be to charm animals and plants, which is kind of neat, so we don't need to cast some of those spells that we just got in order to interact with animals and plants. We're going to dampen elements at 6th level, so we are going to reduce Acid, Cold, Fire, Lightning, Thunder damage, granting a creature resistance against that damage. So it's a lot like protection from energy, but we're doing this as a reaction and don't need to expend the spell slot, which is really good. Divine Strikes is going to give us a lot of flexibility with regards to what kind of damage that we deal, which is nice. We can avoid falling into a pitfall where our DM can counter us with a particular type of enemy. And then at 17th level, Master of Nature is going to give us the ability to command animals and plants that are charmed by us, which is really, really cool. Great capstone feature for the class. Probably in the realm of utility, right? It's possible that we'll be able to muster an army of Ents, or get together a bunch of dire wolves, but more likely this is going to be something that we use to basically have the animals solve a problem for us, charge the keep and knock down the gate. Pretty cool feature. So great utility, fun for campaigns that are taking place in kind of a nature-y setting. Alright, I gotta speed up because, listen, if this video is under an hour, it's because I cut a lot of stuff. Order Cleric. Order Clerics have some bonus proficiencies. They get Intimidation or Persuasion, and they get Voice of Authority. If you cast a spell with a spell slot of first level or higher on an ally, the ally can use their reaction to make an opportunity attack. So you can see this is kind of this bonuses to support here with Voice of Authority. You're going to cast a spell on an ally. It's probably going to be a beneficial spell, like a healing spell, or maybe even like a buff spell like Shield of Faith, and they're going to get to do a little extra thing. We are also going to get our heavy armor proficiency, which is great for our ability to be a frontliner. And then our channel divinity is going to charm everyone within 30 feet of us. You can also make them drop what they are holding. So this is your big, like, weapons down, stop doing this kind of like burst ability. Embodiment of the Law. We can change our enchantment spells to be a bonus action casting time, which is kind of neat. So this is kind of lending itself to making a weapon attack with your main attack and then enchantment spell with your bonus action, which is kind of neat. It's very good for the action economy, right? But the question here is, what role is this filling? So far we have some bonuses to our support, and we have some like crowd control, like utility abilities. There are some interesting ways to combine these. So obviously if your command is a spell you cast on an ally, then that ally can make an attack, and you can just command them to like attack or something like that. Getting an ally to make a bonus action or to make an attack as a bonus action for a spell slot is not super efficient, but the option is there. So we have to say this is some decent utility and some decent support. We are of course getting our Divine Strikes, and then 17th level Order's Wrath. Basically this is gonna, when you do your extra damage, it's gonna make them like charged, and then when your allies hit them they take extra damage. It's just a damage feature for 17th level, which is, you know, not what we were going for the entire time, but anyway. So a little bit of frontline, a little bit of support, a little bit of utility. Order Cleric. Peace. Peace is going to get Embodiment of Peace. You gain proficiency in Insight, Performance, or Persuasion. Emboldening Bond is this crazy, super high support feature. It's going to bond everyone together. They're going to get extra D4s. It's like a bless on all these people. And it's going to tie your party together and be kind of a signature feature. That leaves your concentration open to cast other spells. Who knows what those are going to be, but that's kind of what Peace is all about. Your Channel Divinity is going to let you run around and heal people for a bunch of hit points, which is nice. Protective Bond is going to enhance that Emboldening Bond. So now, when a creature affected by your Emboldening Bond is about to take damage, another creature can step in and grab it. This is particularly potent when you think about like Focus Fire, and especially like protecting squishy casters. This is going to enable frontlining to be much more effective. So it's kind of this fun way of being a support character for frontline in more than just healing, right? You're actually helping them do their role in the party better. Potent spellcasting has no role in this class, but here it is again. 17th level Expansive Bond. Basically the range on your bond is going to extend to 60 feet, so we can kind of ignore this. So most of these are support bonuses, which is great. So this is going to be definitely an A tier in support. A lot of people give it higher than that, which I guess I can kind of see, but it's hard for me to do that. It's basically a bless spell, and then the ability to kind of like rearrange some of this damage is mostly what this class gets. I mean, when you think about that Channel Divinity, it's not more potent than other Channel Divinities. So I'm just going to keep it an A tier for support. Tempest Cleric is going to get that heavy armor and martial weapons proficiency. You're also going to get Wrath of the Storm. When a creature within 5 feet of you hits you with an attack, you can use your reaction to deal some lightning damage to them. Channel Divinity Destructive Wrath. You can use this in conjunction with dealing lightning or thunder damage to deal max damage, which is super cool. Lots of extra damage. At 6th level, Thundering Strikes. When you hit a larger, smaller creature, you can push them 10 feet, which is great utility. And then Divine Strikes for more damage. And then finally, at 17th level, Stormborn. You have a flying speed, which is good utility. I love the Trickery domain so much. So on their spell list, right, is included like Disguise Self, Pass Without Trace, Blink, Dimension Door, and then Modify Memory even. So it's this amazing Infiltrator that I really, really love. You're going to get Blessing of the Trickster at first level, which allows you to touch a willing creature other than yourself and give it advantage on stealth checks. So this is like helping someone else stealth in with you. Combine that with Pass Without Trace at third level, and you're talking about an amazing Infiltrator. Our second level Invoke Duplicity is going to create an illusory copy of ourselves. There are lots of different uses for this. It's very helpful, primarily as like a distraction. At 6th level, we get another use for a Channel Divinity, which is the Cloak of Shadows. We can become invisible until our next turn. Again, speaking to this incredible Infiltrator potential. Divine Strikes, dealing poison damage. And then 17th level, Improved Duplicity, you can create 4 duplicates of yourself, which is really, really cool, really, really fun. A great ribbon capstone feature, but doesn't really affect our rankings at all. Alright, this is one that people definitely know. The Twilight Domain Cleric, right, is going to get such domain spells as Fairy Fire, Sea Invisibility, Aura of Vitality, Lehman's Tiny Hut, Greater Invisibility, Circle of Power, and Mislead. It's going to get proficiency with Heavy Armor, and then Eyes of the Night gives your entire party 300 feet of dark vision, which is a great utility boost. You're also getting Vigilant Blessing, which is going to allow you to touch a creature, potentially including yourself, give you advantage on initiative, which is really, really good. Advantage on initiative is quite a potent ability, so great first level features, and I'm sure the rest of the features were tuned so as not to be overpowered, so that this class would not become the most taken subclass in Cleric. Oh no! Channel Divinity, Twilight Sanctuary. You basically create this like dome of energy, and whenever a creature walks into this sphere, you can grant it temporary hit points equal to 1d6 plus your Cleric level. So here at 2nd level, right, that's just going to be on average about like 5 temporary hit points, and then you can end an effect on it, including Charmed or Frightened. So the benefits of like a counter charm at 2nd level and 5 temporary hit points to anyone who walks into it every turn, which is a lot. That's a lot, and it scales really well. So this is the one where, you know, temporary hit points don't stack, but if they're being reduced at all, so let's say you get 4 temporary hit points and then your opponent deals 3 damage to you, you're not gonna be mad that 1 temporary hit point doesn't stack with the next 5 that comes along. It's a good thing, right? So it keeps this little shield around your party. If your party plays around this is an extremely potent support feature. Combine that with the like giving everyone dark vision, and giving someone advantage on initiative. This is already an A tier support character, and it's just 2nd level. Step to the Night gives you a flying speed while you are in dim light or darkness, which is very, very, very good. 6th level, very early to be able to get that, and you can use this a number of times equal to proficiency bonus. Very, very, very potent utility. Divine Strikes, dealing radiant damage? Of course, 17th level, way up there. Twilight that you summon offers Protective Embrace. You and your allies have half cover while in your Twilight Sanctuary. Amazing as well. So this kind of helps you cluster up in that sanctuary. Now what you want to be doing is like pulsing out and pulsing back and pulsing out and pulsing back. This is a very, very good class. Alright, War. We made it. This is the 2nd drink. And it's going to be gone soon. War. You're going to get spells like Divine Favor, Magical Weapon, Spiritual Weapon, Crusader's Mantle. I love Crusader's Mantle, by the way. Anyway, Spirit Guardians, Freedom of Movement. So the issue here is there's some amazing spells on here. Some of the main spells are just Cleric spells. Everyone is going to take anyway. So there's that. You get Martial Weapons and Heavy Armor. War Priest. When you use the attack action on your turn, you can make a weapon strike as a bonus action, which is super, 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 super good, especially at 1st level, and then it adds, you can use this a number of times equal to your Wisdom modifier. So maybe half the turns in combat, and then it's refreshing on a long rest. So you get this like once per combat, basically. Channel Divinity Guided Strike adds 10 to your bonus to hit for a roll. So if you really need to make that one hit, you can do that with Guided Strike. War God's Blessing at 6th level. When a creature within 30 feet of you makes an attack roll, you can grant that creature a +10, spreading that out using your Channel Divinity. So it's just giving you another use for your Channel Divinity. Divine Strikes, which makes sense on a more melee-focused cleric. And then finally, Avatar of Battle. You gain resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. And were we a frontliner? No, we were not. So that's definitely not going to change anything. Alright, so some closing thoughts. First of all, this is the 4th time I've filmed the cleric ranking videos. Audio would go out, SD card would fill up, things would run out of power. This has been a nightmare. But secondly, it's given me a lot of chance to observe that compared to a lot of the other classes, and especially a lot of the other spellcasters, I think the cleric subclasses make the biggest improvement on the base class. Many of them are, with the exception of their stupid, damage level 7-8 feature, they are very focused on these kind of couple of niches that often support, but occasionally, like the investigation or infiltration or, all of this other stuff. So this, I think, is a really great video, especially if maybe you're just coming from the basic, here's my methodology for doing this. I think it's a great next video, the first subclass video to watch, just because this really shows you those roles in action, right? And I think that the cleric has some great subclasses. If I underrated clerics before, it's because, you look at their Channel Divinity base options, and it's pretty poor, actually. And most of their just normal cleric features have to do with that. But the cleric spell list is obviously very good, and spellcasting is obviously very potent. So when you combine these really good subclasses, really focused subclasses with that baseline, I think you get really is one of the more powerful, overall classes. And when you look at a lot of classes have a D, and there are no Ds to be found here really on the cleric, which is pretty exciting. Lots and lots and lots of Bs and As, and it's got its fair share of S's, but also with this many subclasses, I mean, statistically you're going to see that. So cleric is a good class. I'll see ya in the druid.